The Washington Wizards have struggled this year, to say the least. The team is currently 3-11 and suffered an 18-point loss to the similarly awful New Orleans Pelicans last night. They have the worst defense in the entire league, giving up 120 points per game. Should I mention Bradley Beal also scored 47? In fact, this was the 7th time just this season he scored over 30 points in a Wizards loss. Granted, before I get into this video, his comments after the game didn't really make it seem like he wants a trade. Sounds like he really does love DC and wants to see the Wizards be successful. But the general consensus I'm seeing among Wizards fans is that if he did request a trade, none of them would really be mad or blame him. For some context, his player efficiency rating of 26.53 is over 10 higher than the next closest active starter in Robin Lopez. Even after trading for Russell Westbrook this offseason, Bradley Beal is still carrying this team harder than Greg Jennings with a broken leg. I could keep going, but the point is the Wizards really suck and Bradley Beal is really good. He's a former All-Star with a couple years of team control left, making him a hot commodity for any team that wants to push for a championship this season. Let's take a look at what I think the most likely landing spots for him are, as well as what those trade packages might look like. Starting things off, we have the Boston Celtics. For the past couple seasons, they've been one true offensive star away from being a real contender in the East. Since rumors of a Beal trade began, the Celtics have been one of the top teams floated around. Their needs, combined with Danny Ainge's reputation, always make them a likely candidate whenever a star becomes available. Their likeliness to pull off a trade depends on how quickly they want to push for a championship. They're currently the 5 seed in the East, but they're only 2 games back from the 1 seed. Additionally, as the year goes on, it looks less and less likely that they would want to make this deal, considering Jaylen Brown has shown signs of becoming the second offensive star we talked about earlier. Any deal for Beal would likely have to include Jaylen Brown, so if the Celtics think that keeping Brown is better for their future, I see no reason for them to want to do this trade, which is honestly understandable. If they do decide to push for Beal, I think a trade package looks something like Jaylen Brown as well as a couple of first-round picks. Maybe the Celtics throw in some filler, but I think this deal gets the job done. Like I said, their ability to get Beal into Boston largely depends on how they feel about Jaylen Brown, and if they be willing to move on from him for a slight upgrade and a chance to win a title right now. Next up, we have the Miami Heat. We knew the Miami Heat were one of the teams that put in an offer for James Harden, so it makes sense that they'd be in on Beal as well. After making the finals last year, they've gotten off to a pretty slow start. They're currently 6-11 and 13th in the East, so if Bradley Beal is looking to immediately move to a better situation, the Heat are probably not it. Obviously, as we saw last year though, they do have the pieces, so trading for Beal might get them back to the top of the conference. Allegedly, when James Harden was on the market, they offered some young players and draft capital, which we can only assume means Tyler Hero and some other players. Based on matching salaries and all that boring stuff, I envision a potential deal looking something like Tyler Hero, Andre Iguodala, Kelly Olynyk, and Kendrick Nunn, plus 1 or 2 first-round picks. It's hard to narrow down the specifics, but I think this is a solid return for the Wizards, especially considering how little leverage they have right now. Hero is a nice piece to start a rebuild around, but I don't know that any team will ever win a championship with him as the best player. That's okay though, because Cade Cunningham might be. And between the way the Wizards are playing this year and acquiring a first-round unprotected pick from the struggling Heat, this trade would get them into a much better position to acquire him at number 1 overall in the draft. Next up, we have the Denver Nuggets, who are in a very similar position to the Celtics, in that they are 1 or 2 offensive stars away from contending for a title. They're currently sitting at 11-7 and 4th in the West, but they're a pretty clear tier behind the top teams in the conference, like the Lakers and the Clippers. Acquiring Beal might push them, if not get them very close to that tier. If Denver decides they want to put in an offer for Beal, they can take it one of 2 ways. If they're okay parting with Michael Porter Jr., who's putting up 18-7 this year, he can probably be the focal point of a trade. If not, they probably have to sacrifice the rest of their young talent, as well as some serious draft capital. If they decide to send MPJ to the nation's capital, they will likely need to throw in Gary Harris to match salaries, in addition to 1 or 2 first-round picks. If they want to hold on to the budding star, a deal probably looks like Gary Harris, Bol Bol, RJ Hampton, and 3 or 4 first-round picks. Either way, I think they have the assets to get this deal done if they really want to. Finally, we have the Philadelphia 76ers. Philly is another team that missed out in the James Harden sweepstakes, and they're still probably looking to acquire another all-star level player despite being the 1 seed in the East. A big reason for this is because of Ben Simmons' regression. If the Sixers want to make a trade for Beal, Simmons is the obvious candidate to headline that trade because he has been named Rookie of the Year and been an All-Star twice in his short career. Their ability to get the deal done would depend on whether or not the Wizards even want Simmons. They already traded for an inefficient point guard that can't shoot in Russell Westbrook this offseason, so I really doubt they'd want to do it again. Either way, the 76ers are sure to be one of the teams looking to acquire Beal. Like I said, Simmons has shown flashes in the past, and if the Wizards do think he's valuable enough to replace Beal, a deal probably looks like Philly giving up Simmons plus 1 or 2 first-round picks. Washington may want 1 or 2 young pieces, but this is probably a solid framework for a deal. Bradley Beal is sure to be a highly sought-out player if he does in fact request a trade. Remember, he hasn't said anything officially yet, but each embarrassing Wizards loss makes it more and more likely that he's going to. His suitors are likely going to include the teams who wanted to pick up James Harden, as well as a few more. The Wizards will probably look to get 1 or 2 young players to build around in addition to some solid draft compensation. I'm Duncan. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to check out our other videos, leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe. Have a good one.